Top of the hour, and welcome to Going the Distance. My name's Dan McCormick. If we have not met, I just have to tell you why I chose that song. I have a rock and roll podcast that I enjoy watching, and this gentleman named the Professor of Rock, Adam Reeder, he interviewed this gentleman one time, and I didn't really know the backstory of the song, but what he said was, out of the history of music, that is the first time in history that any song has ever started with reluctantly crouched at the starting line. And I thought, I'm going the distance. I thought all of those incredible things that have shaped my life from the very first time that I read Og Mandino's book, I Am Nature's Greatest Miracle. In the book of the greatest salesman in the world, scroll number 4 is I Am Nature's Greatest Miracle. And that was the first time for me in my life that I ever read or thought about, even before I knew what an I and an am meant, what an affirmation was. And so I hope today we're going to be able to really provide a lift, a spark. And when I think about going the distance, I think about we kicked it all off in January 2nd. And it's just so great to see so many of you that were there then that are here now. And so I'm going to go ahead and put the first slide up, Shar, and just literally thank everybody that was here January 2nd and think about, wow, we were here on January 2nd, kicking the year off. Here we are 2 months later. And I want to thank you for staying on the journey. I want to thank you for reinvesting in yourself, asking the question, is there a chance that between me and the guest speakers and all of us together, as we co-create and share the energy, it is just going to be an awesome show. Let's go to slide number 2 so I can invite you, if there's something I can say when we're not live. If you haven't liked or followed my YouTube channel, we have all kinds of shorts and clips and some highlights from previous master classes. And I just am so excited that we're so close on YouTube only, many other platforms. We're just about to hit 10,000 views of our affirmation audio. That is an 18-minute affirmation that invites you to take that 1% of your day and take 18 minutes. And I like the 18 because it's approximately 1% to better position you and me to co-create together, to be ready to go out there and be more prepared than 95% of the people in the world with readying our mind with the right affirmations. And I like to go through the 7 affirmations in detail. I like to think and feel about the words that I am a magnet for miracles. So if you haven't liked the channel on YouTube, I love it. If you haven't listened to that 18-minute, I think you'll get it somewhere on our webpage. We'll give you more details on that as we go. I just am so grateful that all of you could be here today. And from I am, for those that are new here, it is so powerful. I wish I could just talk to every one of you this morning and say, what were the first thoughts? We like to think first thoughts, first light, first everything the minute our eyes start to open or the brain starts to awaken. We can think so many different things. And if there's 60 to 80,000 thoughts going on each and every day, what is it? How can we reprogram those tiny little baby nerve cells that are reborn while we were in that sleep that are saying, program me, teach me, guide me, inspire me, right? So I'm going to share some of mine with you guys. Let's go to the next slide because I have a gift for everybody that's here. So this week I made something really cool. I have just lived with my leather-bound affirmation journal here that is all of my affirmations that I've added since, because I love the word nuance, and nuance is your journey. That's why at the very first page of my book, we open to this page that you sign. And that sign says, I am a co-creator. This invitation is for you to be part of the book. You're the co-author of the book. This is your book. One of the things that Hal Elrod said when I was on his podcast is he says, Dan, I love how you gave me space to write. You asked me some questions like, what am I thinking about when I don't have to think? And when Hal said that, I thought, wow, that's amazing that the guru of affirmations in the modern day with Miracle Morning, Hal Elrod, is liking on that idea of what am I thinking when I don't have to think. So we're going to invite you to sign that page. Now, our small survey tells us that only a small percentage of people actually do it. And I want to say it's your year, it's your life, it's your turn, it's your time. But we have to turn up the commitment level, the collaboration, and the co-creation. It's your book. Make it yours. That's why I'm giving out this PDF in the email that'll come out later today or Monday. You'll see my 3 years of affirmations. And I wanted to put this page up today because one of my dear friends that was so kind, Speaker Hall of Fame, there's few people on the planet that have ever done what my friend Chad Hymas has done. And this week I texted him just as I normally do, or he'll text me, and I just say, hey, thinking about you, praying for you. This is a guy that's in a wheelchair, total quadriplegic, does very little use of any bodily functions. He is a renowned speaker. He is in the Delta Hub every week out of Salt Lake City, traveling the world from Japan to the heartland of the United States of America, speaking on safety, speaking on inspiration. And when we had him come in and speak to one of our groups early this year, he gave us this affirmation that made it into this page of my book. And I wonder if you write this down. How do you feel about being a servant? Right in the middle, you see, I am an interrupter. Chad from his wheelchair looked at the audience. He likes to sit in the middle of the floor. All of the people surrounding, we had several hundred people surrounding him, several hundred more on Zoom. And he says, I'm going to invite you this year to be an interrupter with your message. What is it that you sell? What is it that you could take to the marketplace? What project are you working on? How can you be an interrupter? And yet the one right below that, I just love this. I did not ever see this in all of my years of studying the Bible, as Jim Rohn would say. I'm an amateur in the Bible, Jim would say. But when I saw I am still as a stone. Wow. What happens to our 18-minute affirmation when we get still as a stone? When we are all in on the 18-minute affirmation, on that private time of reading, on all of these little things that we do. So with that being said, I crafted this with my assistant, and that'll go out. And what I'll encourage you to do is take the I guess I left my newsletter on the other table, but take the however you do your newsletter, however you do your journal, I would say print it off, 3-hole punch it, put it in your screen, or start your own I am affirmation journal. We actually have these on our website. You'll see to have something that is just specific. Now, Neville Goddard said, feeling is the secret. So we want to feel those things. We want to write them. We want to touch them. We want to feel them. And that's why it's important to be still as a stone. Why do we need to be that? Because the world's goal is to wreck us. The world's goal is to get us into pornography, thinking bad thoughts, bad words, bad actions. That's what the world is trying to do. We need to counteract that by playing offense in being still as a stone. All right, let's go full screen for a minute, Shar. Let's look at everybody all at once, and let's say, how many of you this morning can write one simple affirmation that was maybe the first thought that came into your mind? Can anybody put something in the chat, or can anybody say, they can raise their hand, that they had an affirmation in their mind this morning that really impacted them and made a difference? Can we get some hands raised? Did you do that? Okay. Or how many of you did the 18-minute affirmation this morning? Let me just see a show of hands. How many that participate in that, right? We're trying to play offense in a world that wants us to obviously be on defense. We need to spend that 18 minutes. So I am still as a stone is a very, very powerful, all-encompassing, universal law, I would say, that all of us, I should speak for myself, I can do better. And I would imagine that most of us would agree that we can be more still when we're in our affirmation, our prayers, our journaling, our writing, our reading, etc. You guys look amazing. I just had to take a look at all of you because you showed up here this morning, And I just want to say thank you for showing up. Let's go to the next slide if we can. I uh, I want to not be presumptuous for anybody here that I have not met or that will hear this in the future. Why are we doing this? Because the words we speak, we talk about in the very first few words of the book. The words we speak become the house we live in. Let's elevate the words together. Let's co-create together a higher level of energy, vibration, frequency, and flow that helps us to become the attractor of the things that we want in our lives. Specifically, recognizing, as you'll hear throughout and in my follow-up emails, more of the miracles in our life. I made it my goal this week to focus on miracles. For any of you that follow me on Facebook, you saw every day this week I posted something about miracles. And yesterday, it's not all done, but yesterday potentially could have been two of the most magnificent miracles in the history of my life. And I love it when people text me and write and say, these are the miracles in their life. I want to say, you're a miracle in my life. So if you're new here, why are we doing it? The words we speak. Bruce Lee, don't mess with Bruce Lee, right? Don't mess with the words that we use because they cast a spell, Bruce says. Because you're prescribing, as Jack Canfield said. I say let's prescribe the most positive, optimistic, uplifting things that we can. Now, I'm not perfect. I get beat up too. I get negative moments and negative thoughts and things that can then take me down a gutter hole, especially as a kid. Growing up with ADD, ADHD, I was an utter failure in the classroom. I had to face it every single day. The pain and the anguish of somebody that couldn't even look at a page and comprehend anything that was on the page. It was humiliating to go to school. So here we sit today. You're looking at somebody that's co-authored a book that's reached certain pinnacles of success in the world of business that have been fantastic. And as one of my great friends dropped this rock off to me over a year ago, Darcy, I don't know if she's on here today, but believe in miracles. It's possible. Let's go to the next slide. This is going to get fun, you guys. I love giving stuff away, so you're going to get the affirmations, all the free affirmations. Make them yours. If you don't have the book or you want to gift the book, if you feel like there's two words to ignite transformation, let's go all in on I am. One of my first mentors that coached me on how to write a book said, it has to be simple. As I told Ken Shelton, who was the ghostwriter for Stephen Covey's 7 Habits, I said, Ken, I don't think the 7 Habits are that simple. Right? Very few people on this screen right now could name all 7 habits, if any. And we probably all have the book. But I want you to know that these 7 affirmations are simple. And the 2 words that go before any affirmation, I meaning exist, am meaning with God, and what follows I am follows you. Give the gift. One of the great things that I learned by going to AA or addiction recovery programs is the final step in the 12 steps, and that is to share. One of the great things that in the back of my book you'll see is how we stack everything. And the final point in the 7 levels of stacking all of these things is to share. So I hope you'll share it. Let's go to the next slide so we can keep this day going, and let's do a little homework. Let's pause for a second and say, what are quality questions for us right now? What are real top quality questions for our lives? And I think one of the things for me, as I live up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, there's this particular gentleman that owns the Utah Jazz. He's a young man in his 40s, worth billions of dollars. And I saw him on a podcast this year, and he says, I think one of the things that separates us is he says, here at my company, we're always playing the long game. And when I read Ryan Holiday's book, Perennial Seller, most of you are in sales of some kind, but Ryan Holiday wrote a masterpiece for me. I don't know, it's not one of his best-selling books, but it was a masterpiece for me. And I reached out this week and I thanked the individual that gave that book to me because it made me think every day, am I playing the long game? And what am I doing today that will reward me 10 years from now? What are the products I'm taking to the marketplace? What are the investments I'm making in my health that'll reward me 10 years from now? My relationships, my finances. What are some other things that you might be able to write down in your journal that are quality questions for you and your journey? Casual questions lead to casual results, Jim Rohn would say, and sometimes lead to casualties. But let's fill up the page with your ideas. And let's go to the next slide. You guys are going to love this. If you haven't read my book, you'll know that this is instrumental. At the beginning of the book, when Hal Elrod does the foreword to the book and he says, affirmations to me are the most misunderstood and the most effective form of personal development. I had someone say to me this week that she's all in on the affirmations, but this person back east, I think, told me that they had moved on to some other things that they're learning about. Fantastic. But it all starts with the affirmations. I am a magnet for miracles. What are your, I would call, protection affirmations? In other words, I was with at a particular body worker up in Coeur d'Alene last summer, and she said out of the blue, I am safe. She's working on my body, and she says, I am safe. And I thought, what an incredible affirmation. People feel fear, and we get down on ourselves, and we get worried about the future. And there's a lot of things to worry about in the world. But I think we're better off staying on the positive side by saying, I am safe. Hal was an incredible, instrumental teacher to me because of this next slide. So I want to tell you the journey. I want to tell you the journey as I bring in my guest. I want to tell you why I'm a magnet for miracles. So I'm writing the book, and I had already done actually, the book is in its early formative stages. And I am just geeking out on Miracle Morning with Hal Elrod. I'm like, holy cow, I can hardly get past page 30 because of what he talks about at the very beginning of the book was so strong for me. It had such an impact on every aspect of my energy, my vibration, my frequency, and my flow that I literally started my own Thursday morning show. You're all welcome if you're not a part of it. Thursday morning at 5:43 in the morning. We just take less than 17 minutes and talk about a Miracle Morning side. It's on Facebook. You can opt into the group. I'll let you in. Of course, everybody's welcome. And we get, a dozen or so live at 5:43 in the morning, and then maybe 100 or 200 people that watch. There's maybe 400 or 500 people in the group. But if you go to Miracle Morning side on Facebook, but that's not the point. The point is, I kept asking people, who knows Hal Elrod? I know a lot of people, and I couldn't find Olympic athletes that are world-class speakers that knew him. Chad Hymas didn't know who he was or didn't have his connection. And I just kept asking and asking and asking. And there's that old phrase that says sometimes it's the who, not the how. I didn't know exactly how I was going to get to how, but I know I could find the who. And it happened to be my guest today, Andrea Waltz. When she answered the phone, and I can remember the tone in her voice, she kind of got excited. Dan, I don't know how, but I know someone who does. And so I just want to bring in today a very special guest, an unbelievable message, a message that we're going to have fun talking about for the next 10 or 15 minutes. Andrea Waltz, how are you today as the co-author? You've been on my shows before, and I just love everything about this book and the message. It sits on my desk this week specifically because I was making some big phone calls. I was going for no, and it was just, wow, riveting the responses. How are you in Florida today?
I am doing great, Dan. And I have to tell you that I do not drink coffee. My cardiologist kind of forced me off of it. But being with you in the morning, you really don't need coffee because of your energy. I got to tell you.
Andrea, let's see if you can just turn your volume up just a little bit. And I appreciate that. We want to have it's interesting. The science of flow, Andrea, actually says that caffeine is good to get into flow. Now, maximum peak states of flow scientists tell us we can only stay in flow for about 90 minutes max. But let's get that affirmation. Let's make that 18 minutes happen. And so thank you so very much. But I remember you and I, we've had many discussions, and I asked you to endorse my book, and you were very instrumental in me meeting Hal. So I have that debt of gratitude to you. Let's see a show of hands at how many people on the screen right now have a copy of Go for No, or you're going to get a copy today. Go for No. Okay. It's a powerful message. And so, Andrea, how did it all start?
It all started when Richard and I, who is my husband and co-author, met, and he told me the Go for No story, which is in the first book. And I fell in love with it because I myself wasn't a go-to asker. That was not in my identity. I kind of was the person that was taught, be polite. And if you want something, you know, just wait and hope that somebody gives it to you. And if you look like you're asking, then you'll seem greedy and you'll seem pushy. So I had like all these beliefs about asking. So I fell in love with the Go for No concept. And Richard and I have literally been writing about the idea of asking, of hearing no, of overcoming fear of rejection. And I'm a student of this topic now for 25 years.
Well, it's a topic worth, I think, everybody understanding. I want to tell you, I was in action this morning. I was texting the invitation to people in my phone. Now, all of us could go to our phone right now. We could hit the contacts. If we hit contacts and we go to the number sign at the very bottom in your contact file, you can see how many people you actually know or have connection with. And I was going through my phone today and I was inviting amazing people that I haven't even touched base with in a long time. I was going for no on the invitation today. And I hope that you leave here today with the idea of going for no is a good thing. So take us a little bit into I mean, I don't want to jump right to the sequel because I have so many things, but take us away, maybe a couple of key inspirational thoughts on the top of your mind this morning for people that are maybe new to go for no.
Yeah, well, a couple things. First of all, I love what you had to say earlier about change, because it reminds me of this cartoon that I saw, which is my favorite cartoon, and it is cavemen. It's these cavemen, and there's these two cavemen, and they've got this wheelbarrow, and the wheelbarrow, instead of having round wheels, the wheels are square, and inside the wheelbarrow is a bunch more square wheels, basically. And of course, they're not going very fast because it's the square wheelbarrow. And this other caveman is waving them down, and he's got a circular cement wheel, and he's like, "Hey, I've got this, you guys." And they're like, "No, no, no, we don't have time for that." And I love that because sometimes I think we feel like in today's world that we don't have time to slow down and think about the principles that you talk about on these meetings, Dan. And that for real change to happen, we think like, oh, we've got to keep up with everything. We got to keep up with AI these days and everything going on. And yet these things that you're talking about are first principles. And this is how I think you get real change in your life, is by going back to the principles, not about always trying to speed up and find what's going on. This is the foundation. These are the wheels, if you will. Instead of going the hard way, which is the blocks or using squares to get anywhere. So, and I like to think of Go for No like that. Go for No is at its essence, fundamentally, is just about having the courage to ask, having the willingness to ask, having the courage to ask, and recognizing that you can, and we'll talk about this when we talk about the sequel, that you can hear a no, and that a no is okay, that a no is a perfectly acceptable answer, and that it doesn't have to damage a relationship, it doesn't have to damage a client, but that in not asking, and this was something that Jack Canfield said to us that I so love, really, if you don't make the ask, if you're not willing to risk hearing a no, then in essence, you give yourself the no. It's really about self-rejection at that point. And so I think it's just I think that what you teach and the I am principles and Go for No in relationship to change, it all really melds perfectly together.
I love the phrase, while yes is the destination, no is like we have to go through no. So let's just look at from a group today as a perspective. I invited you last week to come on today. I had to go for no. You could have easily said, hey, go for no. We're fine. It's selling on Amazon. We see it on social. We speak at all these different companies. But I thought, I think the world needs your message right now. I went for no with you. I asked you to introduce me to Hal. You were excited about that. I asked you to endorse my book. You were excited. So I I wonder how many in the screen could put your hands up right now. Could you go for no more? Anybody? Yeah, I think we all could, couldn't we? And so I love this phrase from the Bible that says, be bold as a lion. And I just love the idea of going for no in every possible way and letting it be like water off a duck's back if that's just the no, right? So I got to jump forward because I know we're going to run out of time. We could talk for hours. I got to ask, what was it like when you asked Dr. Benjamin Hardy to do the forward for your book as I asked him to do the afterword for mine because he was such an inspiration?
So this is kind of funny, and this is one of the things I tell people all the time is that Richard and I couldn't teach this concept if we didn't ourselves struggle with it. And
Ooh,
right, I mean, because if we were so fearless and if we had no problem with the word no, we would just be like, yeah, why would you why would you have a problem with no? Just, go start asking people. Don't be such a scaredy cat, right? And so the immediate thought that I had when we were kind of brainstorming and we were like, who would be somebody that could write a forward for the book? And we came up with a few names, and then Dr. Benjamin Hardy popped into my head, and I immediately said, "Oh, I don't know, I don't know if he's gonna say yes or not." And then it was like, well, duh, we're the go for no people. We've got to be asking, and so we did, and actually it took a few asks, and we were warned. We were going through his assistant at the time, and we were
yep.
kind of she was communicating to us what he was telling us, and she was kind of warning us. Like at one point, she came back and she said she had asked us a few questions. She said, "But this is not. He's not saying yes yet." And I was like, "Totally fine. It's totally fine." So we ended up getting a call with him, and on a call with him, and he agreed to it, but it just becomes something that for us is a challenge. We make it fun. We kind of gamify it. We see how many no's we can get, but we just have learned over the years as well is not to take it personally. And
Yeah.
I like to say, and this is a contradiction, but I say hearing no, it's never personal. It's never about you, even when it's about you. And that's a hard thing to wrap your mind around. Like, wait a minute, it's never about me, even when it's about me. Yes, because it's always about the other person. It's
Yeah.
like walking into a 31 flavors Baskin Robbins ice cream store and going over and choosing the, Jamocha almond fudge ice cream and having the chocolate go like, well, why didn't they pick me? Well, it's just preference. And it's how you were raised and your beliefs and your preferences. And that's just how it is.
So good. You know, um, to think about how simple your title is, how powerful your message is, similar to awakening who I am, just two words, yours, three words, right? Go for no. Very, very powerful. When I look at the sequel, not only did Dr. Ben tell a personal story about how he had to go for no, there was some emotional difficulties he was going through with his previous partners, very challenging on decisions he's making. Can you imagine saying no multiple times to Tony Robbins? That's what Ben had to do to write, The Science of Scaling. When I go to the last page of your book, because we're going to run out of time, when I go to the last page, I love the by the end of this course, you will. And there's like six dots, five dots at the end on you will.
Mm.
And I just think go for no encompasses all of it. But sometimes we need that little nuance, as you were saying, to look at it a little bit differently because most of the world would fear public speaking as number one, right? They would just lockjaw. But to develop the mindset that you say here at the end that welcomes rejection, and so I love asking my newsletter subscribers on the spot, um, What is the acronym for system? Last week I did that. Nobody could do it. And I said, holy cow, we wrote a whole newsletter on it. We had a Zoom class on it. We studied it. And it's like, what do the savers stand for? Right? I love acronyms and things like that. But when we develop this mindset for rejection and we overcome and we get to yes, what a beautiful thing. So maybe anything you want to say in closing to the group, and we'll put up in back up here in a minute where they can find you and purchase the book, etc.
I think the last thing I would share is Go for No, the original book, is really about the mindset of Go for No, of the just the idea. We're just really trying to introduce to people, hey, yes is the destination, no is how you get there, as you said, Dan. That if you want more yeses in your life, in your business, you've got to be willing to hear no more often. Go for No, the sequel, came about because what Richard and I realized was people read Go for No and they get very excited about it and they try it and then they struggle with it and they can't do it. Go for No, the sequel is really about an identity shift. And so
Yeah.
the main character in Go for No was Eric Bratton. We bring him back in the sequel, but this time it's 25 years later, which literally it was 25 years later when we wrote it. And we bring him back, and now he has a daughter who's graduating from college. She doesn't see herself as a salesperson. She doesn't see herself as somebody who could ask. And Richard and I really saw ourselves in her as we wrote this book. We were like, let's become this character, Cassidy, who's Eric's daughter. And so it's all about learning to change your identity of who you think you are, what you think you're capable of. It goes completely into your I am strategy, Dan, and the I am principles, because you've got to have those I ams in order to change your to become who you want to become and to reinforce who you want to be. And that's what Cassidy struggles with. She says, I can't, she says in the book, I can't do this, I can't Go for No. So if anybody's you've read Go for No, this is what the sequel's about. It's really about helping you to become the person who can do it.
Yeah. And I always like to say, Andrea, that you don't just want to say the words. Like Price Pritchett on an interview with Bob Proctor years ago said, you want to feel. And so that's why you feel. That's why you want the copy. That's why you want, it's just like Bob Proctor would have Think and Grow Rich with him, just like I had, the greatest salesman in the world with me. It's always important to feel. So get the book, make sure you have notes in it and be a part of it. And I love the fact that it's less than, I think both books are less than 100 pages, aren't they? Yeah.
Yes.
So, Andrea, you're a delight, a great friend, a great person to share the screen with here today. How about thumbs up in the screen for everybody for Andrea's contribution here today? Because I just got to share with you, I love what Mitzi said in chat. Mitzi's also in my book. Mitzi's got a incredible backstory. Mitzi, you can wave to everybody right there so people can see where you're at. And I just love how you said, our whole team has read the book. Now, Mitzi and I don't work together, as a lot of us don't work together. Matter of fact, I don't even know a lot of the people on the screen here today. I don't know what you do. I know there's people in real estate. I know there's school teachers. I know there's people who are, whether no matter what your career, these are universal principles for everybody. So thank you again. Let's go ahead, Shar, and go back full screen and put up the contact information so people can see. And let's go back to the previous slide and then we'll come back to this one if you don't mind, Shar. But this is, can we get back to that last slide so we can see Go for No and Go for No, the sequel, and let's go back. There we go, right there. So there's the website. You can goforno.com. She's got incredible stuff on there, blog stuff. I follow her on X. I follow her everywhere. So her and Richard do great work. And again, what a super, super contribution to our show here this morning. Now, let's go forward. I'm going to skip that because you can read it when you get my book. You'll see it. But I want to bring up Frank. Frank is my new friend, Spokane, Washington. We've never met. Frank heard me on a podcast. And let's go full screen with Frank Phelps. And Frank, how at this youthful age you have. Now, some people would say you've chronologically advanced, Frank, but I know you're not old because you've got a story to tell about how I Am Affirmations came into your life. So good morning and welcome. How are you?
Hey, doing great, Dan. Thank you very much for having me.
How did
Appreciate
it
it.
all start? Where did it all start? Because it was a difficult journey for you to find your way to truly believing in affirmations.
Well, for years, I've heard this term affirmations, and I tried them down through the years, time after time, and I come up with an affirmation, and it really never stuck. It just was a word, big deal. And so as I grew along, then finally on Dave Johnson's call here several months back, you were on that show. And I listened to you, and number one, I felt your spirit, your man of God. And that touched me. And so as I listened to you, all of a sudden things begin to make sense because what you were saying about the affirmation is not just a word, it's a change, it's a movement, it's a spirit, it's a direction to go. And in your book, I Am Awakening, I Am Who I Am, as I was reading, I began to realize that when you would talk about an affirmation, there was a reason for the affirmation. And in front of my computer, I've got about one, two, three, four, five different sayings or goals or purposes right in front of me. And I realized as I was listening to you that I have those up there, but I were not was not implementing what was said. And so all of a sudden, the book began to make me realize, take a look at what's there and ask yourself the question, are you doing that? Are you following that? Are you implementing that? The key thing was, are you becoming that?
Mm,
That's when it really hit me that affirmations definitely have a purpose. And here last Sunday, as I was doing our walkthrough that we're doing now on Sundays, all of a sudden the tears came.
mm,
And I said, what in the world is going on here? And it made me realize that I've been putting something off for quite a number of years. And it was a prompting that I'm supposed to do something, something very hard, something very difficult. My life has had some bumps along the way. And as a father, I was a disciplinarian, not a loving father. And so consequently, years later, when I went through divorce, I lost my whole family, my kids, everything. And so this is embarrassing to say this on a public forum, but we share because we care. And it just made me realize and ask myself the question, how many more years am I going to let my family go past before I make amends? And so I've written in the book on that page talking about being co-creator and that this is really beginning to have a good positive effect upon me. And at 86 years old, almost ready to turn 87 next month, my time is short. And so you have to make the best of what you have. You have a lot of experiences. Oh my gosh. OJT in my life has been phenomenal. I have a lot of experiences, but there comes a time when you realize time is short. And when you recognize there's some things you should be doing, you need to be
mm,
doing them and doing them well. Because you don't know when Heavenly Father is going to say, I want you back home.
yeah.
And it's too late. And I kind of learned that lesson the hard way. In fact, it reminded me of that years ago. I was a young man in the church, and I ended up being on the church board and replaced a guy that I had the greatest of admiration for. He was one of my mentors. He was a guy I went to when I had a problem or dealt with an issue within the church or what have you. He was just a loving man. Never once did I tell him how much I admired him and appreciated all he did for me. And all of a sudden, he had a heart attack and he was gone. And in one of President Nelson's books, there was a saying, and it really stuck with me. The most hurtful words left at a graveside are the words of endearment to the departed.
Mm,
And so that has stuck with me. Then, so here, after I got reading into the book, I made a couple of phone calls and I called a couple of people that have just been special in my life. And I thanked them and told them, how much they meant to me, have done for me, what have you. And Dan, the feeling inside that I had for doing that
Wow.
was priceless.
Wow.
So I now have a new appreciation for affirmations. And as I look at what's before me now, what I wrote up there now has become real. And so I am happy and thrilled and encouraged because I am is who I'm learning who I am.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Frank, I can't wait to meet you when I get back up to Coeur d'Alene this summer and can't wait to have a bite to eat with you. And thank you for being a subscriber on the newsletter. And I know that you've been a great contributor so early and so fast. How many of you can appreciate the angle of discovery, right? No
Yes.
matter where you are, no matter what your age is, on this March 7th, is it? March 7th, 2026, no matter if you're 18 or 86, doesn't matter. We
Nope.
all can start right where we're at and hit the go button. Let's go to the next slide because we're going to run out of time. We got 5 minutes left. I want to just say
This is
what I just
so
said was basically,
powerful. You're going
let's
to
go ahead and pause that. We're going to skip this is an unbelievable absolute submersion into the life of Tiger Woods and the pictures that he had as a kid. We don't have time for it right now, but I want to just say it was a deep dive. I want to say that if 60 to 80,000 of those thoughts are happening a day and we're repeating the most of them, the negative, and they stay the same, it doesn't matter when you discover it's time to absolutely immerse yourself and go all in. And I am going the distance is powerful. Let's go to the next slide if we can. Excuse me. Oh, I wish I could go around the room and get comments. I see some friends I haven't seen in a minute. I see neighbors. I see all kinds of people. I mean, you guys are amazing. I'd love to give you a big hug and a high five and share a few words and hear your journey and where you've been and more importantly, where you're going. I am going the distance in what? Let's take your notes out right now. Let's take a few seconds and just make sure something makes it on your paper right now. I am going the distance in what? Is it your relationships, your finances, your workouts, your diet, your exercise? What are you going the distance in? In the book, Awakening Who I Am, the seventh affirmation is I am a finisher. I am a finisher is overlapping with I am going the distance because when the Lord says I am the author and the finisher of my faith, we have great lessons in the book about being a finisher. But we have to have the attitude that I am. I exist, am meaning with God, going the distance in what? Let's go ahead and go to that next slide if we can, as we go to our last invitation here. If you're new and you haven't got your free book, the book is free. Like, how much better can we make it? You pay for printing and shipping. I love the free edition that we printed. I carry it with me a lot. I write in it, I highlight it. But the invitation to do these free masterminds, of course, free is good. Free is very good. But then, if you want to go further, if you want the accountability, if you want to step up, if you want to be part of our newsletter, it's $47 a month. It's going to go up next month. It's going to go up quite a bit because our costs and fees are going up with our staff and our team and our invitation, the coaching that I pay for, the systems that I buy, all this stuff. I just want to make sure that we make it invaluable for you. I want to be the best I can be to be your co-creator, your partner, your accountability partner, and making that happen. So if you can answer these questions, how have you found it difficult to focus? Are you finding flow every day? Do you feel like you're on a plateau? That was my life. The plateau of going nowhere. And the phone call to Andrea, reading the book Miracle Morning, the invitation to meet Hal, the journey of writing the book. Are you struggling to achieve explosive growth? I can tell you right now, today you can have explosive growth in your life if you can answer one question. Can you be still as a stone? You can have a massive trajectory change in your life in stillness. Or are you going to continue to scroll? Scroll or still? I'm going to say still, you win. Do you want to take massive action before 2026 ends? I think I got a typo there. So you can see the typo, my oversight. That's a good one. So, what would happen if you could have new strategies and systems? Let's see. I would love to know if any of my newsletter subscribers can give me the acronym for systems right now on the spot. Anybody?
Save yourself time, energy, money, and stress.
I want a high five for Drew Martin. You guys, Drew had a stroke last year. He's learning to walk, talk. He's learning to do everything again, and he just nailed it. That is incredible. Save yourself time, energy, money, and stress. What are your systems and strategies doing? She even said at the end of the book in Go for No, the sequel. It's fantastic. So let's go down to the very bottom one there. What if you had proper strategies to ignite your transformation? It's incredible. Let's go to the last slide if you can. I'm going to send you an email today. I'm going to gather a list of people that want to be on really 8 weeks, but it's going to be really the balance of the year. And if you want to do one-on-one stuff for more accountability, if you want to do group coaching, if you want to be part of the newsletter, if you're part of the book, the whole kit and caboodle. If you want to be on that list, if you want more teamwork that makes the dream work, more co-creation, I'm telling you, this entire idea is the genesis for change. I am starts right here with you, with us as a co-creation group. And I'm going to invite you in the newsletter that's going to come out today. And then we'll send this video today for those that couldn't make it, that are on the email list, that have been to affirmim.com. And I just want to tell you that it's going to be amazing. It's not going to be obviously a cheap ticket because it costs me a lot of money. I've invested a lot of money, 6 figures, in making the whole affirmation thing come to life. And I just know that I've already been rewarded. How can I help you be rewarded? I've spent on my coaching classes alone thousands of dollars. My investment with my writing coach, my whole process with the newsletter, thousands of dollars, and monthly I invest in that. And I invest thousands of dollars in with Dr. Ben. So I want to tell you that I invest in me. I invite you to invest in you. If it's going to be $47 for a newsletter, fantastic. If it's going to be just the free book, fantastic. If it's just going to be the free affirmations, it's win, 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 win. It's win all the way around. But can we help you win at the highest level? In closing, that's our last slide, I believe, Shar. Is that right? Is that our final last slide? Is that our last slide? Nope, we have one more. In the newsletter, you'll see all the things that we have with the audio companions. I have flow videos. I have frequency videos. I've taken Jim Rohn. I invested thousands of dollars in taking the Jim Rohn audios and just turning them into 432 frequency, because sometimes it's sound that is the change. Nothing worse than the sound of just scrolling. Invest in the frequency and the flow. So you get all that. And then the final, for our newsletter subscribers, our next masterclass live Zoom event. So this is a physical newsletter that goes out. It is written by me. It's helped edited by my assistant. And I only use AI for punctuation and spelling and all the stuff that I hate doing. That's why I never wanted to write, because I never could see what a run-on sentence was. My brain was never taught to do that. But if you come together with us on this, our next class, 2026, March 19th, we usually go Thursday nights. It'll be fantastic. I want to say thank you, everybody, for being here today. Thank Drew for coming in with his systems analogy. Someone should write "Save yourself time, energy, money, and stress" in chat right now before we close. And I just want to say, what an incredible day. I hope we've given you value, and I hope you'll go for no, you'll go the distance, you'll join us on the journey, and we'll look forward to all of the friendships and collaborations, and we'll look forward to circling back with you very, very soon via email and other phone calls. God bless you. Have a beautiful day, and bye for now.